So, we find ourselves at the end of this year's Six Nations with rather unbelievably the prospect of a Welsh Grand Slam. The only thing in their way is a hurdle in the form of a youthful French team who have a bag of talent and baguettes of heart. Now we saw this weekend that the Welsh easily destroyed the Italian efforts to halt the Welsh hype train, and the French train pulled into Twickenham station to get onto a South Western Rail replacement bus service driven by a smirking Billy Vinapola. Now, the Welsh managed to grab a commanding 20 plus points in as many minutes against the Italians, and were then able to rest pretty much their entire squad to gain the win. This means that the squad are intact, rested, not injured, and feeling very, very good about their next battle against France after the win against Italy. Whereas the French have come off a very narrow defeat from the old enemy England. The French were hit hard and tried their best and still lost. The psychological impact this will have coming into facing Wales will be huge. The Welsh definitely have the upper hand coming into this game. But what England showed us is that a wounded lion can be dangerous and bite back. But can a wounded cock take on the dragon? What went wrong for France against England was not really any fault by the French, but rather that the English had lowered their penalty count drastically and the forward pack and back row were just way better than the French. Also, as I said in my video previewing the match, the English bench came on and didn't give away the penalties like they had done against Wales and actually helped to make an impact. The English squad was just more intense and just doing these big hits and was just generally a bit better than the French forward pack. Now, one of the reasons for this was that Leroux was not in the French squad that played against England, and that definitely had an impact, I think, as this guy is amazing in defence and rarely gives away penalties. And without him, the forwards had to step up, and even some of the backs stepped up defensively and did a bit of what the forwards should be doing. Like Virimi Vakatawa, he was amazing in defence, jackling the ball, and some of his carries were much like a forward would. I mean, look at this. He flings Mako straight to the floor there with that strength. That's incredible. Another one, Penel. I mean, look at this, clearing out Genji, which has to be my favourite French player of the game. Seeing a winger take on a forward and win. Look at that. The game was hard on both sides. The French had incredible attacking moves from the backs. They just lacked that driving force that the English had in the forwards, and having to defend against Cowan-Dickey, Billy Vinapola and Carl Sinclair, making these hard carries and hits, making meters every time they get the hits. And that just takes out of you when you have to deal with that defensively. And this is why I think England won. England tied them out and snatched the win at the end of the game, as we saw. Now this is worrying for this weekend's game against Wales, as this is exactly how Wales tends to play. They tend to snatch the game at the end of the match after wearing down their opponent, usually through the use of their forwards. It's a marathon to the Welsh, whereas to the French it's a bit more of a sprint, and they try to take the game a bit quicker and earlier on in the game. So I think France might lose this actually. I think Wales could indeed get the Grand Slam. One area where France looked better than England at times was the ability to use their running backs to find gaps in the defence and find ways through a very strong defence from England. England had a great defence in this game, and yet from this set piece here, the French backs play an amazing move, which is obviously straight off of the training ground, and managed to make a 3-on-2 for a definite easy-looking try. The question is, could this play transfer against the Welsh squad? The Welsh have also been very good defensive team in this tournament and have been helped by cards in almost every game apart from the English one, meaning that creating 3-on-2s is a bit easier for them as there's a man missing, usually on the wing. And in attack, it's a lot easier for the wingers to score, which is why you're seeing a lot of the scores from Josh Adams, Liam Williams, and of course, Louis Rees-Zammit. Louis Rees-Zammit lacks a bit of strength in defence, whereas Josh Adams and Liam Williams are pretty darn good. So the use of Vakatawa or Penal to target Zamet specifically on that wing in attack might be an option for them. However, Wales's forward pack have been arguably the best in the tournament and could therefore stop the ball from getting there to begin with through the likes of Ken Owens, Wyn Jones, Navidi, Faletau, and just basically all of them really. The French lacked in some of the front against England and a lot of the back row against England. Olivant very quiet in the game. The only time I heard his name was when he was making a mistake, really. It wasn't up to his usual self. If he can step up, it might not be so much of a problem against Wales. We'll have to see. Whereas his opposite number, Tom Curry, had a corker of a game. I mean, it's the best game I've seen him play this Six Nations. He's back to his usual self that he was when he was playing in the World Cup and in the Autumn Nations Cup. Really hard to play against. This is where Wales could therefore win the battle, I think. And I think we will probably see either another card in the game, maybe, or a higher penalty count, which would then mean Wales win through penalties rather than necessarily getting it to the wing and scoring tries. However, if France get a fast start and pile on the points with the backs, as we have seen that they are very capable of doing, they will have that points cushion for when penalties mount up or when fatigue kicks in at the end of the game. Also, not losing it mentally will be key, as this is something Wales are very good at. Wales have great mindset in the game when they're losing. They love stealing the game as an underdog, so a cool head will be needed against them. Now France have a great number 9 and number 10 who can orchestrate attacking moves just like Scotland were able to do against Wales in their commanding first half against them. They also have a large, strong back in the form of Vakatawa, he's a little bit like Van der Merwe on the wing for Scotland, except Vakatawa plays in centre. But you could put him on the wing, which would then be a strong runner like Van der Merwe was against Wales in their match. I mean, also Ione for Italy showed that Wales have that weakness on the wing in the form of Louis Rees-Zammit, and so having a stronger guy on that wing is a way to exploit that weakness. Dulin is also really good under the ball, which was just like Stuart Hogg against Wales. So when they do kick, Dulin can gather that up and definitely deal with it. The problem is he just doesn't have the same running ability that Stuart Hogg had. So France, I do think, can cope with Wales's attacking threat. So if France can match the Scottish first half effort against Wales without tiring or getting a card, they could win the game and stop the Welsh hype train. However, as I've already said, the Welsh have been very cool-headed and they don't concede penalties that often. And they counter-attack really well, preferring to defend usually in the game and then taking opportunities when they arise rather than attacking and having possession of the ball. They have that ability to take those chances when they present themselves and execute them well, albeit with some extreme luck. But will the luck run out this weekend? Well, as an Englishman and a huge French supporter, I hope yes. But I did live in Wales and have also fallen in love with Rees-Zammit, so I wouldn't be too disappointed with a Welsh win either. What I want as a neutral watching the game is just an amazing contest and battle like we saw with England versus France. I mean, they barely even kicked. There was a lot of running. There were barely even any lineouts. Whenever the ball went out, they seemed to just chuck it back in and do a bit of a running game. It was brilliant to watch. I do not want to see a lot of stoppages and penalties, but I feel that may be the way that the game goes, as that is usually how Wales win. I am looking forward to the showdown, and Allez les Bleus, and Awn ni Amandi Ta Cymru. Thank you all for listening. Let me know what you think, who will win, Where will the battles be? Who's going to be the most important players, do you think? It's always great to hear from you guys in the comments. I have other videos that you can check out on my channel, and other thoughts on matches and things like that. So please check that out. Like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you soon.